Welcome mamas, we're back for progression number 4 of our core series. Today we're going to be using a long band. You can anchor it to the bottom of a couch or in a doorway, anything where you can get a little bit of length. We'll also have an optional mini band and a stability ball if you have it. If not, just press against the couch when we get to that movement today. So we're going to start laying back with 5 pelvic tilts, just checking in with the pelvis, with the rib cage, making sure we're nice and relaxed. So big inhale here, expand. Exhale, rock the hips back, lift that pelvic floor. Start to breathe through your nose, relax the chest and shoulders, rock the hips back on the exhale. Big inhale through the nose, feel the sides of the ribs expanding. Exhale, rock the hips back. Expand with the belly, with the sides. Exhale, rock it back, flatten the small of your back. Awesome, so now we're going to roll to the side. We're going to place a pillow or a small ball between your knees. And we're going to activate these inner thighs for 10 reps. We're also going to add a press with that top arm to get that really good core connection. So as we inhale, we relax, and as we exhale, we're going to press down into the mat here. So exhale, squeeze the legs, press down, inhale and relax. Exhale, think about zipping those legs together. Inhale, expand the belly. Exhale, think about belly button up and in. And on the side here, you can kind of feel that belly really pulling up and in. At least I can in this postpartum period, because you'll feel how much the belly kind of just relaxes outward when you inhale here. Inhale and soften. Exhale, press down nice and firm. Good, get that nice squeeze between those inner thighs. Hold for a couple seconds there with each repetition. And flip it over. Start to check in with your neck, with your shoulders, all of that, making sure those are staying pretty relaxed here. Good. Exhale and we press together. Inhale, relax. Press down really firm into that mat. Find a comfortable position for your neck. If you want to rest your head on your hand or on another pillow, that's fine. Pair here with that breath. Exhale, squeeze and press. Inhale, relax and soften. Pelvic floor lifts right before your leg moves or your arm moves. Time this breath. Exhale right before you start the motion. Inhale and soften. Exhale and press. Good, awesome work. All right. The next exercise is a single leg glute bridge. You can do this from the floor or with your feet up on a ball or couch or chair. Any sort of raised surface is fine. And we want to think about keeping our hips really level with this exercise. The core is what's going to keep those hips nice and still as we progress through this range of motion. So again, pairing with that exhale, we lift, we drive through that top heel. Inhale, expand. Exhale, we lift. Good. Inhale, expand the belly. Adjust yourself if you need. Exhale, drive through that glute and lift all the way up. So if your lower abs are really engaged as you lift up, your hips are going to stop at that nice range. You're not going to go too far. So really feel with your fingers, if you can, that nice wrap and tightening of the abs before you lift up into that glute bridge. Again, checking in with the pelvis, making sure that it's not giving way to that side of the raised leg. Keep driving through the heel of that foot. Keeping chest and shoulders relaxed too. And if your arms or elbows are down on the floor, that's just going to make it a little bit easier. So if you can, keep those arms raised or on your hips, not on the floor. Good, switch legs here. Again, readjusting the pelvis, making sure we're not leaning to either side as we lift those hips up, squeeze through the glutes. Good, inhale, we lower. Exhale to raise. Soften at the bottom. Pelvic floor lifts right before we start the movement. Good, diaphragm expands at the bottom. Again, checking in with those fingers. I just like to give myself that little bit of feedback Make sure I can feel the correct muscles activating here, because we are activating the glutes. We're feeling that booty burn, but ultimately we want to make sure that the pelvic floor and the core are timing, that they're kicking on just before each rep. Good. Press up, squeeze, lower down, nice and controlled. And if you want to make it a little bit easier, you can bend that top leg, but keeping it straight kind of gives a little bit more pressure to the pelvis. All right, next slip on a mini band. If you want, you can do this one without. We're going to come into a side plank position here with a clam. So make sure the bottom elbow and shoulder are nice and stacked. We're going to lift up and open that top leg up to the side. Good. Inhale when we're down. Exhale as we lift. Inhale here. Exhale to lift. Think of that pelvic floor lifting up and in with each rep. Again, just getting as much motion through that top leg as you're comfortable with, without that top hip rolling back. The tendency is to kind of rotate back to try and open those legs more. Keep the pelvis facing forward and just get as much motion as you can through that top leg. And if you don't have a band that feels right for this exercise, feel free to just do these body weight. So exhale as we lift. You'll feel this in the bottom, the side, the muscles of your side on the bottom. And then on that top hip as it rotates up and out. Keep it going. I know these can burn. Coordinating with that breath. Feeling with your hand if you can, making sure those lower abdominal muscles are kicking on. Great. Next, we're moving into a dead bug. And here's where you can use your stability ball if you have one. If you don't, just place your hands on a couch or a chair or a wall, just a really stable surface that you can press into. This overhead press with the half dead bug is just going to help that entire core unit to activate. So for me here, I'm just going to keep one leg on the ground, but if you're feeling good, you can pick both legs up and hover both legs in this bent position, okay? We're going to exhale and extend the leg down while we press up into the ball. And if you want to take a little bit of pressure off the leg that's down, just come up onto that toe and pair with your breath here. You can watch my belly. Exhale, we wrap as we press up and extend down. Again, having my other foot down is a modification. So if you want to have both legs up in the air in that 90-degree bend, feel free to try that out. Just be aware that we're not getting any coning or ridging or outward doming of that core, that when we extend the leg down and we press overhead, that core is really wrapping nice and tight and not expanding outwards. Good. And then also, if you're feeling this in your low back when you bring your leg up, try to keep your breath just a little bit tighter. Like breathe a little bit shallower and a little bit more up in your chest so you can keep that lower abdominal contraction kind of held through the whole rep. When you try and take a big diaphragmatic breath when your leg comes back up, sometimes that lower back is going to take a little bit more pressure than we want. So we call this that active breath. So we're exhaling as we press down and just sort of a smaller inhale when we come up. Still breathing through the whole rep each time. And if you keep your leg farther off the ground, it's going to be a little bit easier. So feel it out what kind of range is comfortable with your core. Keep pressing those arms overhead with each rep. Really pushing back into that ball or into that surface, whatever you're using. Good. Get to know your body, how your core is responding to each of these exercises. Good. So go ahead and set the ball aside. Here we're moving into a quadruped position. And we're going to start here. Think about finding that nice flat back. And we're going to walk into a half plank. So neutral spine, neutral pelvis, not arched up or tucked down too far, but nice and neutral there. You're going to have a little bit of a dip in that low back at neutral. So hug the belly up and in on your exhale and walk it out to this half plank position. Your hands can come a little bit past your shoulders if you're comfortable, and walk it back in. Again, pair with the exhale. We're breathing out as we're walking into this half plank. Squeeze your glutes here in this plank position and walk it back in. Good. We're thinking about keeping the shoulders when we're in this half plank together and down. The shoulder blades are together and down. Walk it back up. Inhale here. Wrap and exhale as we walk it down. Good. Lower abdominals are hugging up and in. Glute is squeezing. Shoulders are together and down. There's so much going on in these very small movements. So if we're really pairing this with our breath, really exhaling through this motion, contracting those core muscles, drawing up the pelvic floor, this is not an easy exercise if all of these muscles are working all together. Good. Keep breathing. Nice inhale. And exhale as we lift out. Good. Are you feeling pretty strong through the shoulders here? If your wrists get cranky, you can always come up onto a fist or something like that so the wrists aren't taking as much pressure. I know when we're working back into planks, sometimes those are one of the areas that can get a little bit crabby. Good. Exhale. Feel really solid through this plank position. You can see my hands are a little bit farther than my shoulders. If I keep them right underneath my shoulders, it'll be a little bit easier. If I walk them out a little bit farther, it's going to be a little bit more challenging for the core. Good. All right, roll those shoulders out just a little bit because we're going to stay in quadruped position for this next one, and we're going to work on a little bit more of a dynamic movement with some hand lifts. So here, tuck those toes under nice and far so you can really push up with your feet and squeeze your glutes. Exhale and wrap the tummy. Lift one hand, then the other, one hand and the other. Then we set our knees back down. Good, that's one rep. Come into child's pose if you need. I'm going to break these up because I know these are a lot. We've already just been in this quadruped position as well. Good, so tuck the toes, lift up, squeeze the glutes, and we're holding that active breath here. So we're still breathing while we're doing this, but we're keeping the lower abs really nice and tight, keeping that nice neutral spine. Good, next rep, tuck the toes, lengthen the spine, lift up just a little bit, glutes are tight, lift one side, then the other. Do your best here to not wag your tail. I'm getting a little bit of a tail wag there. My hips rolling side to side. As we get stronger together, we can start to minimize that a little bit. Wiggle your tail here. Get some nice relief and come into this next one. 3 and 4. Good. Set it down. Take a big inhale here. How are we feeling? Nice and stable with these? I know these are tough, but they are a fantastic way to activate the transverse abdominals. So those deep abs, lift up on that nice exhale. Keep breathing. Good, and relax. Awesome job. Stretch out those wrists a little bit. I know when we're working into planks and quadrupeds, the arms and the shoulders can be working just as hard as the core. All right, so now we're going to grab the band, whether you're anchored underneath a couch or something, or whether you're in a door or around a railing. Ideally, we want the band to be anchored around shoulder height, whatever position that you're in, but mine is going to be anchored a little bit lower. What we want to do is keep the hands right at the middle of the chest as we press out. So we want to think about not letting the band rotate us toward itself. So we want to keep that nice line. Exhale, press straight out, and pull back in. Exhale, press straight out, pull back in. No rotation through those shoulders or the trunk. Exhale as we press out. Inhale as we press back in. Good, keeping the hands right in the center of the chest. This is a great anti-rotational exercise. Good. there as we press straight out. Good. Check in with your pelvic floor here too. Pelvic floor lifts, abs wrap right before we start the press. Good. My shoulders are burning a little bit because with that low anchor, I'm also having to keep lifted with my hands as well. So I'm going to flip it around. Same thing, starting right at the middle of your chest, and you're pressing straight out, focusing on not letting that band rotate your hands at all. Good. Exhale as we press. Inhale as we come back in. Good. Try and keep those shoulders as together and down as much as we can, so we're not rounding forward here. Good. Keep that nice straight line. Exhale, straight out. You're gonna feel your obliques here really turning on to stabilize your trunk, to stabilize your core. These are also one of my favorites during pregnancy. Such great deep core work without any sort of planking or on your back. All right, last one, guys. This is a really functional movement, and what we're working on is timing the breath, timing our pelvic floor and our core kicking on with this movement. We're also involving the hip flexors here. So exhale, come up to one foot, hover the knee, and back down. So think about, you're on the floor changing a diaper. How are we gonna get up? Exhale, plant the foot, hover the knee, and back down. Good. Here's that dynamic movement. Knee comes up, plant the foot. Good. Try and stay really stable over your feet in this position. Plant that foot. Awesome. We're using our breath, we're using our core to fire right before we go into this movement. Good. That hip flexor is kicking on as we're drawing that knee up. Really stable. And these look very subtle, but if you're exhaling really well and lifting that pelvic floor, you're going to feel how much core stability this simple movement actually takes. Because I know you guys are all doing this already, getting up off the floor probably 1,000 times a day, but pairing this with our breath. Exhale, lift, hover the knee, set it back down. Good. Exhale, lift the knee, hover, and down. Good. Whew. All right, there we go, guys. Let's take a second just to breathe here in child's pose. Expand through the ribs, soften the pelvic floor. So much good work today. So many dynamic, great movements. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.